My God, it's a boring subject. But yeah, it's just part of what we do sometimes. Oh look, there's some primers. Now, primers can be polyurethane, acrylic, lacquer-based, enamel-based, you name it, it can be based. Oh look, there's a tumbleweed. Now, this video is basically me saying what I use and the results that I do get. It is my opinion. Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, and some are more smellier than others. There's another tumbleweed. Anyway, if you haven't done so already, please like the video and subscribe. And if you can, click on the old bell button for future videos. Well, I do like Arnie's opinion, but anyway. Here's the kit in question. It's the Tamiya 40 Phantom B, and that is the paint that I'm going to be using. Yes, it's Tamiya. It's not got primer written all over it. And I'm using Mr. Hobby leveling thinners to actually thin it out. Now, when this was actually filmed, it was an absolute baking hot day, and yeah, the priming went rather well because of what I did. Now, what I do is I heavily thin my primer coats, as in the acrylic. Now, the acrylic I use is Tamiya. I use like a grey, it could be a dark grey, a sky grey, a medium sea grey, but just like a neutral colour, just so I can get a decent sort of like coverage over the bare plastic. Now, thinning wise, I do thin it to 1 inch of my life. I'm not going to tell you what the ratio is because it's pointless, because all the ratios are going to be different. For when you're actually airbrushing, you've got different atmospheric pressure, you've got the different airbrush that you're using, and basically the equipment that you're using, i.e. the paint or the primer. So all I do is heavily thin the paint and give it thin coats all over, and then once it's sort of like semi-dry, I come in with a thicker coat or a wetter one. Yes. Now, the properties of this is when you're looking at angles like I'm doing here, which is a 90-degree angle, what's going to happen is the paint or the air isn't going to turn into like a vortex and actually dry the paint before it's even properly got onto the kit itself. Basically what I'm trying to say is keep your actual paint as thin as you can, as wet as you can, and at 90-degree angles. Because the last thing you want is to be spraying at a 45-degree angle or other, and what will happen is the air will get into the paint, cause a vortex, and will actually dry the paint, so you'll have crusty edges on each side, as in the wing root, the wing, and the actual fuselage itself, and that is not what we're after. So, why do I prime? Now, I prime my kits because I want the paint to have a good solid base to stick to. Now, I use Hataka's lacquer range, or the orange line, and they do have a tendency of lifting even when I've taken most of the tack off the Tamiya tape to mask onto bare plastic. Now, as much as I try, it doesn't work, okay? So that's why I prime, and I've always primed anyway, just because of, yeah, paint coming off, and yeah, it's just a pain in the ass. But also it gives you a nice decent finish, and the paint that you are going to be putting down onto the actual kit will be more vibrant, more colourful, and a lot more easier to get on, okay, especially on a nice smooth surface. And that is why I prime, and basically why you should prime your kits. Now, if you don't prime, that's fine, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to prime. If you've never done it and you think I'm talking bollocks, then okay. However, for the vast majority of people out there who do prime, you don't have to go out and buy mega expensive, I wouldn't say mega expensive, but expensive primers to get the job done. So, what I do is I use Tamiya, I use Mr. Hobby leveling thinners, and that's it. Now, you could buy or go out and buy certain, say, Mission Models primer, MIG ammo, and all the rest of it, and that's fine. But when I watch a video and I've got some guy almost bleating at me saying, buy Mission Models primer, buy their thinners, and only go by their recommendations, yeah, I can see, yeah, that obviously you would listen to a manufacturer's suggestion. However, in this case, no. You can do it a lot cheaper, with a lot less arsake, and like I've said previous, it all depends on where you are, what you're doing, and what equipment that you do have. So, with primers, oh look, there's the MIG ammo. That comes in a couple of flavours. And also, you've got the old faithful rattle can. I can't even speak bloody English. Anyway, anyone tells you any different from, or says that this is crap and don't use it, it's not a primer because it's got primer written on it, just give them the old heave-ho, say thanks very much, and give them one of them, and yeah, and start priming. So, I talked about thinners, and these are the ones I use. It's Mr. Colour Levelling Thinners, yes, Leica-based, and you can buy that for about £5 or 2 for £10, and they'll last you for ages. But with airbrushes as well, we all have different airbrushes, some old, some new, some cheap, some expensive ones, and basically if you're able to work with it and get good results, then stick with what you've got. You don't have to go out and buy mega expensive kit just for the sole art of priming. So, I prime my kit. Am I happy with it? Well, I'm happy with the paint. It's actually gone all over it and it's stuck to it. But let's do the finger test. Oh, yeah. Basically, like I said before, I'm just checking the areas where you could get a build-up of paint or dry paint that's going to basically really ruin your base coat. So from when your actually paint goes down, it's going to look like a total mess. However, if there is a remedy. I use either a lens cloth, yeah, or I do use a sponge, or an old sponge. Basically, you're just rubbing over the affected areas. If it's not too bad, you can get away with using some kitchen roll, really. And also, you can use a sort of like a very sort of like fine polishing pad. So yes, ta-da! That's what I use, and what you can use to get all the crustation off. Now, what you could do, if you've done it really bad, is take it all off, or not literally all off, and reprime it. Now, if you're going to do that, again, just make sure that your primer is heavily thinned, you've got enough sort of like air within the room, and you can actually do it without either killing yourself or actually, getting the job done properly. So, just as a demonstration, I'm about to show you, very technically, the lens cloth goes on, but you don't want to sort of like mega sort of like put pressure on it. Just go up and down like a fiddler's elbow. Oh, yeah, and just basically just take the top cover of the actual paint off. You'll get next to no residue on the actual thing that you're using, with a lens cloth, but actually just put your fingers all over it, and yeah, you should get a very nice smooth result, so your base paint can actually get on it, stick to it, and look pretty damn good. So, priming. Told you it would be boring. Now, if you want to go out and buy the more expensive stuff because you've been told otherwise, then go ahead. It's your money, it's your time, it's your everything, okay? But why spend more money on something that you can do a hell of a lot cheaper, and in some ways, and in a lot of ways, is a damn sight better, as in you get a better result. Now, I'll leave that over to you, because I am a person that has no right to tell you what to do, and I won't ever tell you what to do. I can only advise you on what's best for you. Now, At the end of this video is going to be an important message about traffic wardens. So if you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe and click on the old bell button. Thank you and good night.